Talk about political matters in this country. Some dismal new poll numbers for Obamacare showing the president's signature piece of legislation is more unpopular now than ever. According to the latest Kaiser poll, just 37% of Americans like the law. That's the lowest rating since it was passed. 53% disapprove. That's an 8-point jump from the previous month. And that number could grow as people renew their policies this fall, policies which we have been told are likely to cost more. But there is still some good news about Obamacare. States embracing the law have seen a large drop in the number of uninsured. These are the top 10 states with the largest reduction of uninsured, according to a Gallup study. They all expanded Medicaid and set up their own state insurance exchanges. States that were reluctant to implement parts of the law have seen little or no difference in their rates of uninsured. Let's talk about it with David Catney. He's the senior political reporter for U.S. News and World Report. Is this, exoneration for Obamacare? The fact that, states that set it up, really pushed it, they have lower rates of uninsured?
It's definitely a bit of good news in the dog days of summer here. This Gallup survey looked at the 10 states that did two things. They implemented the state exchange, and they also expanded Medicaid. And in those states, the uninsured rate dropped twice as heavily as states that didn't do those things. And overall, if you look at just nationwide, the number of uninsured, that number has dropped from about 18% more than a year ago to now at about 13-14% right now. The interesting thing inside those numbers is two of the states you just had on the screen are southern states. Arkansas, Kentucky has seen some of the biggest drops in the uninsured, yet Obamacare and the whole entire healthcare law still remains unpopular. And I think you see a bit of a disconnect there because the people benefiting from this law may support it, but the majority of people aren't dependent on Medicaid and a change, and they're worried that the law is going to impact them down the road, and I think that's why you see it still being unpopular in a lot of these states.
Yeah, expanding on that, let's take your numbers. If we've dropped from, say, 18% uninsured in this country to 13%, essentially Obamacare has blown up the entire healthcare insurance system, and for a lot of people who, had doctors they liked, had health insurance they liked, they don't have that anymore, but they do have Obamacare. That's what has so many people frosted, David.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the problem. And a lot of these people are voters. They're middle class, they're voters, and that's why you see those poll numbers showing it still to be a drag on Democrats everywhere. It's that, hey, what we liked we had, we didn't want it changed, and now the uncertainty, the question mark, do I have to switch my doctor? Are my premiums going up? That's the drag. But, you sort of see some interesting pieces for Democrats here in states that are, maybe more conservative. Arkansas and Kentucky, those numbers were pretty dramatic on the uninsured dropping. Yet you don't really see the Senate candidates in either of those states running towards Obamacare, and that's sort of the whipsaw that the Democrats are in this year. You have the administration coming out and saying, look, we are making progress on helping out the uninsured, but yet a lot of the mainstream public does not see a benefit, and in fact, they see some changes that they don't like.
And the other factor that we're not really getting into right now is, okay, you've got maybe 5% of the population that has insurance now, but who's paying for it and how much is it costing? There is no free lunch, and that's tough to know. It's tough to get your hands around that number.
And that's sort of a broader question about the entitlement culture and whether, I should have to pay for somebody else's health care. That's sort of a broader ideological argument that you don't see many Democrats weighing into. So you have this good news that the uninsured rate is dropping, and I think Democrats can hold that up and say that's good news. But remember, the Obama administration, a lot of the top administration officials said, look, this law will eventually be popular, and 4 years later, 37%. That's still not popular.
Yeah.
So they've got a public relations problem no matter what, even if they're seeing some good numbers on the policy.
More unpopular than ever, according to these latest polls. David Castanese from U.S. News and World Report. David, thank you.
Thanks, John.